Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to United versus Everybody. A little bit of a new look, United versus Everybody. If you can't tell, got a little bit of a logo change, a little bit of a font issue, things like that. Just always trying to reassess. It's important in life to stop and reassess and constantly try to, just stay on top of things. Don't get complacent, don't get too comfortable. Growth happens outside of the comfort zone, right? But all that being said, I am your host, Sean. Welcome back to the channel. So glad to be here, you guys. A little bit of a fun one. You guys know I like to break up the boredom and the monotony of international football with just some fun stuff. Some obviously I like to save some of the more creative stuff, get more people involved. Obviously, Dylan was here the other day to look back at some of our managers since first Sir Alex retired, and we kind of ranked those based on a kind of our own individual criteria hierarchy and what have you. So go check that one out if you guys haven't yet done so, because that was a fun one. I always enjoyed chilling with Dylan. Today we are tackling another topic. So the other day, I sound like my wife with the time. My wife says the other day, and really it's like 3 months ago. But last week, I believe, Danny B, my PIC and longtime regular, as you can see in the chat. Good morning, Danny. Looking forward to this one. I know you are, man. I know, like me, with the scouting, with the interest in looking around at other players and things like that. This is right up your alley here. But you posed a question last week, and I didn't want to disrespect the response of that by not giving it the focus and the attention and the time and the energy that it deserved. Because the question you asked was, Sean, if you had 200 million to spend, what would you do? And that was like, it's such a good question, because obviously it's where we're going right now. So what you've kind of done is put me in a situation now, Danny, where I'm doing my summer transfer target video now on a budget. So what started as a 200 million turned into, hey, I could do this on a budget, not forcing myself to, but just by sheer happenstance of the fact that these players I would get, and these players happen to not be super expensive, and we could still end up making money this summer. That's just the way it works. You guys know I try to be a little realistic with some of this. So um, at the time, there were a lot of factors involved too. So again, this is why we made this an entire stream. And here we are today. So today I'm going full manager career mode. I'm going full director of football. I'm going to not just be looking at who I want. We're going to also take into consideration who will be leaving, who might be leaving, who should be leaving. Look at the current squad, how some of the new additions play into that as well. See how I could stretch the budget and to 200 million, as Danny B pointed out initially. Spoiler alert, it wasn't that difficult. I'm not going to lie. So follow along today as I put on my director of football hat. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts, your picks. Not only is that, but also your thoughts on my choices. So let me see what you guys are saying, and then we'll dive into the news to start things off. Danny says, no budget for me, Sean. 200 and maybe a little change. I want to go straight to try competing in the top three. And 200 is probably realistic in terms of budget. I'm not going to be like one of these people who is going to be like, hey, let's go full Nottingham Forest and get like 2 dozen players in one summer, or we'll go city and buy these many players in the summer and buy 200 million. Like, I try to keep it realistic. We are skint a little bit. We do probably have to sell to buy in many regards. So I try to keep a little bit of, I'm not saying you're not being realistic, because 200 million is a pretty standard budget for a first summer rebuild for a manager, but I think we can do a really good job and not have to spend, because right now we do need to dig ourselves out of a hole a little bit. And yes, full disclosure, I did have that in mind as I was doing this as well. Recap, big up. Good to see you again, my friend. How are you doing this morning? Hope everybody's doing well. Nice morning today, a little chilly, but got a lot going on this evening. What's up, Danny? Yeah, you guys just get involved in the chat. Like the video, subscribe if you are new. We are on the road to 3K. And then if you guys want to be involved in some of these videos, even join me virtually to get your thoughts in that way, and get more involved in the conversation. Check those memberships. Like, I know I rail on and on about it, but it is a good way to get more involved. So let's dive into some news to start, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, as Nacho Libre would say. Shout out to the legends who know that reference. So on the topic of transfers, we'll start off with some transfer news first. So this is coming from Florian Plettenberg. He claims that Juventus attacker Kenan Yildiz, the Turkish little young Turkish dude, is one of the top names on United's shortlist for the attacking midfield position. Apparently, we are impressed by how he's developed at Juve. We are continuing to monitor him closely. But again, Plettenberg follows that up with the truth, or at least what he's claiming, that Yildiz has no plans to leave Juve. He's very comfortable. He's a fan favorite. He wants to stay with Juve. His contract is also runs till 2029. I don't think Yildiz is going anywhere. The fans love him. It's weird that Mata isn't really feeling him. I don't know if Mata is long for that Juve post personally, but we will see how that goes. Recap says we just have to invest in key areas. Good morning, Tushan. Though it's 5 p.m. on this other side of the globe, Kenya. Well, big up, man. 5 p.m. in Kenya. What is sunset like in Kenya and in Africa in general? Because I feel like the sunsets and maybe the sunrises in Africa might be some of the most beautiful on earth. Personally, I'm full. I've always wanted to go to Africa. I think the fact that you all have so many animals there that will just unalive my ass probably keys me. I think the tsetse fly is something that bothers me maybe a little more, but maybe in Kenya it's not that big a deal. Maybe like black mambas and stuff. I'm not even worried about lions and stuff. It's the buffaloes, it's the mambas, it's the tsetse flies, those kind of things are, and the scorpions maybe. Do you have scorpions? But it looks amazing. I feel like it would be beautiful. Then he says, would he be expensive? To be honest, I honestly never watched or heard of him. Thought he was a CB till now. Now he's this young, like Turkish. I think he's Turkish. Attacker, having a big kind of a breakout season, doing really well. Highly rated, but obviously it doesn't sound like it's just again Plettenberg. It comes from Plettenberg, so when it comes from Plettenberg, I tend to tune up. I don't like when it's like a Fricayes or like a Team Talk or a Give Me Sport, unless it's coming from someone at Give Me Sport who's reliable. Team Talk's never really reliable. Fricayes, I've given up on. So that's why I don't mention a lot of those rumors because they're just not reliable. When I look at a Team Talk link and it just says according to Team Talk sources or Team Talk understands, I sigh and I roll my eyes that I even clicked on it in the first place. But big up, man. The recap says it is beautiful, Sean. Awesome. Yeah, maybe one day. Having two dogs does make it hard to travel. Personally, we don't even like leave without the dog. Like when we go on vacations and stuff, like it's usually we find some place we can take the dogs with us. And even when we do stuff throughout the day, because we put the dogs in crates when we leave, we can't really be gone for more than like 4 hours, 5 tops. So, but it is what it is. Moving on to some club news. So Millie Turner, a player for our women's team, has signed a contract extension to 2028. So big news there after a summer we lost a lot of really good female players. Women's team, I think, needed a bit of a shot in the arm. Obviously, they're doing really well in their FA Cup again. Trying to defend that from last season. But big up Millie, big up the women's team. Probably don't get enough recognition that they deserve. I know that Skinner is a bit of a sore subject for a lot of people. And to be fair, we probably don't give them as much recognition and attention as they deserve. So like I said, maybe if I got some time one day and schedules work out, maybe I'll do a women's team watch along. Big up the women's team, though. We can't forget that they are holding down the fort in a lot of ways as well. They have a lot of very good players on that team. Toon, Fallon, Tullis Joyce, the keeper, Jade Riviere. She used to play ball right down the road from me in Ann Arbor. So big up the women's team. I'm happy to always see them doing well. Robert says, take the dogs. They are better than people. They are better than people. On the whole, I probably do deserve. I do prefer dogs to people in many ways, but they can make it difficult sometimes to travel. Recap. So this should be our last rebuild. So we settle and focus on our game. We need to trust Ruben. We need to back him, as the thumbnail implies. But yes, big up Rob. And Danny agrees. We know Danny agrees. We know Danny's a dog. I mean, you can see Danny's icon there. There's a dog in there. What kind of dog is that? Is that like a Malinois or something? I can't tell. So, and then finally, we did see a bunch of stories this week that Rasmus Højlund could be going to Napoli in some sort of a exchange deal for Victor Osimhen. I've seen it talked about it. I'm personally, I don't think Højlund's going anywhere right now. We already need a striker with him, even if he stays. Not necessarily because he's bad. He's not been great this season, but because he's the only real number 9 we have besides Cheeto. We're not selling the one first team number 9 we have and then having to get more. It's not going to work. So he did score that winner last night against Portugal for Denmark, by the way. I told you guys a few weeks ago, once he starts scoring, he needed to get over that mental hurdle. Once he got over that, I feel like he's going to go on a good run of form. And I said he'll be fine. Remember, form is temporary. Yes, it was a bad season. A lot has been going on this season, though. That's like blaming all the players under like the Ralph Ragnick, Ollie getting sacked season. Like, that was not a great season for anyone. It's not been a good season for us as a club. We're down in the bottom half of the table. I think sometimes the hate that Rasmus gets is a little too much. But any case, I mean, not a whole lot of news. So let's move on and know to what you guys are here for. It's probably, I mean, I know Danny's excited. It's probably not going to be super eye-opening for a lot of you if you guys have been following the channel a lot, because a lot of these players have already featured. A lot of these players we've talked about, a lot of these players have already admitted, like, I would sign them this summer. But all of this is coming together to form a composition of a rebuild, a good start to a rebuild, and then an assessing over the next season, even as early as next January, to really finish. This rebuild should not take more, at the most, 2 summer transfer windows. You're going to be doing a lot of work this summer. We're clearing out a lot of deadwood, and then you're giving a lot of the players that are still on the fringes, still on the jury's out kind of column, the next season. And then by next season, you'll know who's gone, who's good, and then we should have a better squad for Amorim to work with. But all that being said, we have a lot of work to do this summer. Of course, we need to bring in better players that suit Amorim's system. But again, as we saw with Sporting, we have to sell players too who either just don't fit in the system, or they're just not good fit personality for the dressing room. Some of the more volatile, the more emotive personalities, high earners. We've started some of that process with Antony, Malacia, Rashford, Sancho left in the summer, went to Chelsea. We're looking to actively get rid of Casemiro still. I mean, Sir Jim has not hidden his displeasure at the Casemiro signing on several interviews. He's name dropped Casemiro. So, I mean, but to his credit, Casemiro's been doing just fine recently, but I would still sell him if an offer came in. But as far as positions we're looking to strengthen, so we've been told that I'm not saying what Fabrizio Romano is as gospel. I'm just saying it's a good starting point. We've been told that we are looking at a striker, an attacking midfielder, a central midfielder, and a center back. I'd probably also throw a right wing back in there as well. We've also been told that, again, on that note, that we've made an offer, a January offer for Giovanni Quenda. So it does seem like a right wing back is a priority. So there's probably a little wiggle room in that regard. We're going to be losing a few players for free this summer. Eriksson, Lindelof, probably Johnny Evans. I'm not even sure. I know some people are saying like Maguire's got signed a contract extension for a year. Did he actually do that? I know that there were talks about it, but I don't know if he actually did it or not. But he'd probably stay for another year. There are a few that are probably going to be leaving in Rashford, Sancho, Antony, Malacia, probably Altay Bayindir as well will be heading out the door. And then there are some that we should be moving on, like I said, like Casemiro. So it's difficult. We've got a lot of work we got to do. It's not as simple as playing FC 25, going to a player and then hitting the add to transfer list and then waiting for all the offers to come in and picking and choosing how much you want to take. That's not as simple as that. These players have to be wanted. You could probably argue that there's players like Shaw and Mount too. I don't know if they're going to be heading out the door anytime soon though. And I'll admit too that putting together this rebuild with just a bench of 9 makes this difficult, because there's a lot of players who probably shouldn't be left out of the matchday squad who on a given day will. It's just the way it's going to be. And those players are like players like Collier, Camison probably getting, and Matato probably getting a shout to join the first team before the end of the season in squads. Even Kavi Menu makes this difficult because he's not been in and around the pitch right now, but we have midfield players coming and going. I feel like in many regards, even with the outgoings this summer, even with losing play for free, even with hopefully selling players, we're still going to have a squad that does need to be trimmed down even more the following year. So let me see what we got here. Danny says, I was delighted for Rasmus when I heard he scored. Yeah, I didn't watch any. You guys know I don't really watch friendlies, but yeah, he scored. He came on. There was so much hate, Danny, from United fans bashing him ahead of kickoff when that starting 11 came out and they saw he was on the bench. I saw so many United fans on Twitter. Oh, boy, can't even make the starting 11 for Denmark. And I'm like, Cool. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, Denmark won. Surprise over Portugal. Honest surprise. And Højlund came out and scored the winner. And all these haters just went back into the woodwork because that's what haters do. I'm going to start a segment on the show called The Agenda Hunter, where I'm going to go full Australian accent and hunt down some agendas that I see because the shit's getting ridiculous. Your own, like, United fans can't even back their own player on it. Like, this is ridiculous, man. Recap says, we need Rasmus. He has a future. If we sell him, trust me, we will regret it. He's young, and strikers become prolific once they mature. Yeah, he's super young. And you know exactly what's going to happen if we do sell him. And I don't think we will. He'll go. He'll start banging in goals, and then all the revisionism will start. All these haters will be like, why do we sell him? This, that, and the other thing. Like, this is the cycle that we go through. People are already doing it with Rashford. They're already doing it with Antony. It's ridiculous. Then he says, start from the back. I started from the front. So first we're going to jump in here. Let me see what Danny says. Wesley Franca, right wing back, Flamenco, 25 mil. It's an option. Yeah, I think we were linked with him a few months back, if I remember correctly. Recap says, I'm a bit confused, Sean. Did we sign Diego Leon? We did sign Diego Leon, but because he's 17, we basically signed him, and then he went back on loan to Cerro Porteño, and he'll be coming in the summer when he'll be 18, I think, next month. So yeah, there are rules with ages and whatnot. So Hakuna Matata, welcome back. No worries for the rest of your days. Hope you are doing well. Robert, the GOAT Antony might make it possible to sell him, and FFP profit sustainability be just fine. Yeah, this is why I don't care that Rashford's doing well. I don't care if Antony does well. I don't care if Malacia does well. Like, it's not anything personal. I'm more concerned about the club's finances. I want Aston Villa to win Champions League now. Every round they progress to, we get a bonus back because Rashford's there, just like we did from Sancho last year. We got a lot of money from Dortmund getting all the way to the final last year. If Aston Villa keep going, we'll get more money. If Rashford performs well, we'll get more money. And then we can still sell him at the end of the season. I don't care. I've seen Villa fans on Twitter like laughing when Villa advanced in the Champions League, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm laughing too because we're just getting more money. Like, cool. I don't care. He could score a hat trick every single game now and lift the Champions League, and I would not care because we'll get a ton of money for that, and it'll only boost his value. So, but like I said, we do have a bloated squad. This is what our squad looks like now. Pretty hefty. The players that are highlighted in red are the players for my purposes today are heading out the door. Gives you a little bit of insight. Now, some of them probably should go, like Mount, like I said, probably Shaw. I don't think that it's going to be possible to sell them because of the injuries. And I do think that if Mount can stay fit, then Amorim will probably want him. But because Amorim does seem to like him. But I do think that a lot of these players, for my purposes, are going to go. So a little bit of a spoiler alert, if you could see. Recap says, nice, Danny. Defensively, we're doing well. Then the future looks good. Yoro, Leon, Amas, Heaven. Yeah. And so that's what we're looking at. Again, like I said, for the sake of the video, I'm moving on a few players who, for my rebuild, I need to get rid of. So there's only so much realism I can inject into this feasibly. So for my purposes, you can see there, Casemiro's gone, Dallow's gone, things like that. So that is where we are at first and foremost. So let's just dive right in and see what we got going on here. Some of the players I've picked, like I said, you'll know from when I've discussed them. A few are going to be free agents, so that means that I haven't just limited myself to a few positions, a few players. I think personally, I've collected a solid mix of youth, experience, leadership, quality on the ball, mentality, and good depth, and then obviously in sticking with finance. So I'm starting from the front, working my way back a little bit because I like to put my best foot forward. So let's just dive right in here. Should not be a big surprise to anybody. Let's get the goals out of the way first. It is a big struggle for us finding the back in the net. Højlund and Cheeto are our only true strikers, and Cheeto literally is 17 years old. Højlund is still young, up and down. We need experience. We need clinical finishing. We need someone who can find the back of the net, and we need someone who fits this system. And that is why you guys, probably no surprise that I've landed on Jonathan David, 25 years old. Leo Stryker, he is a free agent this summer, and he is the topic of a big kind of bidding war to try to get his signature over the line. But what clinches it for me too, not only is he clinical and he's a really good age and he's got Champions League pedigree as well, but the guy is literally just on about 32K a week in terms of his wages. He reportedly turned down a new contract at Lille that would have nearly doubled his wages. So reportedly, he and his agent are pushing for roughly like 125K a week, and they want a 5-year contract, which to me sounds perfect. That would put him at around £5 million a year. So again, literally a third of what Casemiro's on right now, well within our wage structure. Even if you want to give him that 125K a week, that's nothing. That is absolute peanuts compared to what we're paying right now for people. Take him off the screen. So currently he's on 23 goals, 10 assists in just 41 matches in all competitions. He's got 7 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League this season. Like I said, Champions League pedigree. So he does move the needle in terms of European football. 26 goals, 7 assists last season, 26 goals, 4 assists the season before that, 19 goals in 21-22, so on and so on. The guy has literally always had like 20 goal involvements this season. He's quick. He's strong. He can pass. His link-up play is solid, and he finds the back of the net first and foremost. Like, the guy is just an absolute baller. And I do think he fits this system very well. He's able to drop a little deeper. This is his heat map so far this season. And you can see he's getting a lot of touches, not only in and around that box, but also in this kind of middle third area and just outside the box, where he's able to link up, where he's able to hold up the ball, where he's able to pass and move, give and go, find some teammates. And that's really what you need. We're not, and it's not a system that relies on just poachers, just someone who's going to sit on the penalty spot. You need to be able to drop deep. You need to be able to help create. You need to be able to create for yourself. And as Jonathan David does that, conveniently, so this prep has been done for a couple of days, but I saw yesterday that French outlet Le Ten Sport claimed that United, Spurs, and Arsenal are all in talks with him right now, with his reps and his agent and all that. This is, to me, one of the biggest no-brainers I've ever seen in my life in terms of what we need. He fits every single box that we need right now. People are talking about Osimhen. Look at Jonathan David's numbers. Look how long he's been doing it. And look at his wages. Again, this guy, it's a no-brainer. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Oh yeah, Shea Lacey. Yeah, Robert. Shea Lacey is definitely in there, but like his injury record is not helping him at the moment. So if he could stay fit, maybe, but it's doubtful. But Jonathan David, free agent, $5 million a year in wages. You're probably going to have to pay a little bit in a signing bonus to get that over the line as well, because there are other interested parties. Big up, Darko. Good to see you again. So, but that's first item on my list. And honestly, you can already tell where I'm going, because budget window, free agent, one of the best strikers in football right now. That's an absolute no-brainer. So behind the striker, moving on, currently we've got Ahmad. I think people forget about Ahmad. Bruno, who, remember, is a natural number 10. Garnacho, Zirkzee. We've got 4 players just in and around behind the striker. Now, Ahmad can play wingback too. Bruno has excelled in the pivot as well, so there's some versatility there. So whether it's the 10s, the pivots, the center backs, you know that I like balance in those areas of the pitch where there's a partnership formed. We have 2 10s, we've got a pivot, we've got a center back. In the 10 right now, we have a lot of movement in ball progression on the ball, which with like Garnacho, with Zirkzee, Ahmad, a lot of movement. What I want is a little bit of that silky, just eye for a pass, chance creation. I want that kind of little bit of magic, kind of like what we see from Bruno now and then, but I'm thinking more like what we see from Odegaard when he gets in those advanced positions. And you're going to need this, especially if Bruno's playing a little deeper. Bruno's excellent at getting the ball forward from that position, but I want someone else who can provide chances, because a lot of our attackers right now behind the striker struggle to do that. So in keeping with our interest in young players, I've opted to spend a little bit on a number 10 that we've been linked with, a number 10 who is a big United fan, and number 10 who is in high demand right now. Um, and that is Sphere Nippon. We've covered Sphere Nippon so many times on this channel. I did a whole dedicated video to him like last month. One of the most talented young attacking midfielders out there right now. He can play number 8. He can play 10. The guy is excellent. Arsenal and City met with him in January when he was going on this tour following Rosenborg's end of the season. He just turned 18 in December. He has been a regular, though, for Rosenborg's starting 11 for a couple seasons. I think he made his debut for them when he was 15. 8 goals, 8 assists last season. The guy is just progressing. His trajectory right now, just in the numbers alone, but is just impressive. I'd play him as one of the 10s, like I said, but as an 8 in that pivot, he could also play there. An 8 on the left-hand side is where he naturally plays, but if I'm going to show you his heat map in a second, and you're going to see why I want him in that 10 role. And that's where I'll put that up on the screen now here. So this is his heat map for Rosenborg this season. You can see that not only as an 8 is he able to drop a little deeper and pick up that ball, which is what our 10s do a lot already this season, but look at where he spends most of his time on the ball. It's pretty much the exact same spot you're going to see some R10s playing right now, on that, hugging that left-hand side, getting in and around the edge of the box, chance creation. You can see he takes the corners too from that side. You see his little blob of red on that corner. And look at how many touches he's getting in and around the box too. Like, the guy is an absolute force. 10 million with some add-ons is going to get this one done. He's not expensive at all. We've been linked with him. He is a United fan. Now, I'll admit, in terms of this position, I looked at Mastantuono. I looked at Tyler Dibling as well. I think what clinched it for me compared to those two is Nippon's first-team experience and his numbers. I think they're just better. He's got more first-team experience at a young age, so I do think that he's, in that regard, I do think he's probably a little better right now. I like Mastantuono. He's having a really good start to his season. I think he's well on his way to being to doing much better than he did last season, but I think that compared to those two, Nippon edges it. Rayan Cherki was an option for me, but what had me opt for Nippon was the X factor of the player that we already have in Ahmad, and I do think, for my purposes, Ahmad is a 10 for me. I think that he's been playing more as a 10 under Amorim before he picked up his injury, and so having Cherki, having Ahmad, having Bruno, having Garnacho, I think that does create a little bit of an issue. Plus, you're going to have to spend a little bit more because Cherki is a hot commodity right now. Dortmund are looking at him. Liverpool are looking at him. And so I do think that Nippon is one who's going to come in. He's going to be able to rotate, but he's also going to be able to do a job. He raises the floor of our squad in terms of that position, that profile, that chance creation. We don't need ceiling raises. We need to make sure we're raising the floor of the squad. And I do think Nippon does that, and he does suit the profile that we're looking at right now. What are you guys saying? Robert Reed says Hugo Ekitike is a 10 hybrid. Yeah, we talked about him the other day because we were linked with him like 4 years ago before he went to PSG, and he's having a good season. You guys know how I feel though about when players have one good season. I have to see multiple seasons. What we'll see what happens. But yeah, he is looking like he is having a good season, Ekitike. Danny says make up your options in chat, but keep it under 200 mil. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be budget. I did budget because when I started off with the 200 million budget, I found that I did not need anywhere near that. So, and I didn't want to go on the crazy unrealistic run and just get like 12 players because I don't think that's realistic. You guys know I try to keep it realistic if I can. Darko says, isn't Xerxes too slow for a 10? I don't know if it's about he's too slow because as we've seen from Xerxes, he can hold on to the ball and he can play a role. But this is why I want like a complementary balance. Xerxes works well with Garnacho, for instance, because one is movement and one is like ball progression and ball retention. Xerxes does that very, very well. And on a run, like McTominay may not have quick feet, but on a run, it's very hard to get the ball off of him. And so I do think, but Xerxes is definitely not a 9, but Danny says Nippon fire. Yeah. Robert says, I like it. Yeah. So far, if you're keeping track, it's going to be like it's probably going to be just under like 20 million for these two between the add-ons and the signing bonus and then the transfer fee for Nippon. Not too bad so far for 2 players. Robert and Danny outside Hugo are probably only buy 1 more and bring in 5 players. Yeah. Get your guys' thoughts in the price tag and see what you're saying here. Dot says, yeah, 100% Rob Cherki on my list. Cherki is on my list, but maybe I'm too realistic with some of these things. Maybe I'm like, hmm, maybe I need to have a little bit more whimsy to my thing. But it's all right. There's no right or wrong here. But so far, Jonathan David, Sfar Nippon, starting from the front. One's a free agent. One's going to cost you about 10 million and change with add-ons. Not too shabby, if I do say so. I'm moving to the back right now. We're going to get to. We're not doing this entirely in order because I one position was the most difficult position. We'll save that for last. But moving on, we're going to go. We're going to jump back to center back because we are going to need a center back. Not only do we need a first team ready replacement for Licha while he recovers, because he's not going to be fit for a while, probably at the earliest, maybe like October, November. But we're going to be losing Lindelof probably. We're going to be losing Evans. And with a system that uses 3 center backs, we do need depth. Now, I did that video on Licha replacements a couple weeks ago. You guys can check that out too. Aiden Heaven has done well. He will be a solid rotation option, and he's shown that on a given day he can be a trusted starter, even with Maguire sticking around. But Maguire's probably, if we get a decent offer from Maguire and we bring in another defender, I think Kokonki could come in, Heaven could come in, and then we could get another center back, and Maguire could go play like regular football at like a West Ham or an Everton or something. But we need a left-footed defender who is good on the ball, good at building out from the back, good passing range as well. You guys will probably can guess who this is going to be, but we're looking at Olivier Bachali. Talked about him several times. His ball progression is among the best for center backs. Literal top 1% for progressive passes per 90, top 10% for progressive carries. And what that tells you is that when that first phase of the attack, taking the ball off the keeper, moving the kind of like what we see from Mazraoui, this guy does that. And the passing range, like what we saw from Licha, this guy does that. Top 5% for interceptions per 90, top 8% for blocks per 90 as well. So he does not shy away from his defensive duties. He's not someone who's going to get caught too high up the pitch all the time. He knows his job. He does it well, but he's a modern defender. He can do anything on and off the ball. He's at the peak of his powers at 27 years old. He would slot right in for Licha while Heaven continues to develop. And he's free agent this summer. He's only on about 12K a week. You could quadruple that, and he's still cheap. I mean, you could quadruple his current wages, and he's still not even on 50K a week. This, again, just like Jonathan David, is an absolute no-brainer. Again, I think at a 27-year-old Bachali, which is like the same age as Licha, I think, right now, and then you got this 18-year-old Heaven, the 17, 18, however, 16, 17-year-old Kokonki, signed Bachali on a 4-year deal. You let guys like Heaven and Kokonki develop a little further, and then by the time Olivier Bachali is getting to that 29, 30, and maybe there's a club from the Saudi League or maybe like PSG or somebody like that, then these other two are already in their late teens, 20s, and we can see what happens. But I think that this one to me is an absolute no-brainer. I think Danny probably guessed it. Yeah. You guys know, if you guys been watching the channel, you know how I feel about Bachali. Danny says 100%, get him signed ASAP, 120K. Honestly, Danny, that's like, you don't even need to get him on 120K. That's 10 times what he's currently on. He's only on 12K a week right now. And so again, not only is he free, but the wages, he's going to be on next to nothing. Literally, you're going to pay him like maybe $2 million a year total. If even that, probably like $1.5 million. He's coming from PSV Eindhoven, so he's not going to be on a ton of wages. Obviously, they got destroyed by Arsenal in the Champions League, and that's okay. It's Arsenal. It is what it is. But this guy's a no-brainer. You guys will see me talking about him. But again, third player, we're 3 players in, 2 free agents, 1 quality 18-year-old for 10 mil. Can you dig it? Danny says, we will have to force other clubs out of the deal. I mean, probably. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of clubs in for him. I mean, who else needs a good left-sided center back? I mean, you could say Madrid, but I think they're probably going to be going towards like the Joe Hato route or something. Barcelona, maybe. I could definitely see him at Barcelona for sure. But he suits what we need. We can't. I love Heaven. Heaven's done really well. We'll see what happens with the injury. It sounds like the news is good, but we do need someone who is first team ready, experienced, and who can replicate a lot of what Licha brings to this side. The closest replacement would be like a Schlotterbeck in terms of that aggression, but I think that what Bachali brings is a little bit of that just kind of class as well. Um, but yeah, like Danny's saying, if you want to beat other clubs out, you probably are going to have to offer them a bit more. Maybe go like 75, 85K a week. Then I wouldn't go anywhere over 100K. You guys only on 12K a week right now. So, but we'll see. I think the biggest issue for him is he's going to want to know what happens when Leach comes back. And it's like, hey, just like any other club, you fight for your place in the team. The players pick the team. If you're putting out the work in training, if you're putting on the work on the pitch, then the best player is going to play. That's the way it is. So, but that's my center back. So 3 players in, 2 free agents. So moving on to a different position. Oh, I forgot to show you guys this too. Sorry, forgot that I added this to his slide. So this is Bashali's heat map. The guy is a literal ball progression machine. He can play in a high line just fine. He's excellent at moving that ball. Look where his touches are. The guy is a machine, man. He's a perfect defender for this system. Like, and I think that probably clinches it for a lot of people. Honestly, if you look at his heat map and where he plays, like he's getting a ton of touches in and around his own box. He's getting a ton of touches in his half, and he's getting a ton of touches in the opposition half. The guy is a freaking monster, man. So, but yeah, so Olivier Bishali on a free, my center back option to come in and rotate while we sweat on Leach's fitness. So moving on to the next position. Now, you guys remember when I put out the initial squad that Dallo is getting sold for me. Yeah, Danny says he's perfect. I mean, he ticks all the boxes, and I'm not. That's not me trying to like toot my own horn here, but like I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job so far. So Dorgu on the left, coming in January, looking pretty good. Diego Leon arriving in the summer, as we talked about earlier. Not to mention Harry Amas recently making a very solid debut on his birthday. I think the left-hand side's probably covered for now. Plus, Mazraoui can fill in there if we need him to. I need a true wingback / winger for that right-hand side, though. I mean, a specialist who knows that position. And this means Diogo Dallo has moved on. Like, I'm tired of Dallo. He's not having a good season. He doesn't look like he fits, and I don't think he's got the mentality or the quality in enough areas that we need him to. His mentality is definitely taking a drop off. In these 1v1s, he's not. He's had a couple of flashes here and there recently, but I think it's time to move Dallo on. I think it's time for him to go to a system where he can just be a right back, somewhere like a Juventus or something where he can just do his job. So I am looking at right wing backs, and I am looking at someone who I don't have to worry about. I don't have to wonder, like, is he going to develop? Like, he's young. Let's see what happens. I'm looking for someone who just automatically takes us from rebuild to, like, this could be the difference maker in big matches. This can be the difference maker in Europe. This can be the difference maker between a Europa League spot at the end of the season and a Champions League spot at the end of the season. This is Jeremy Frimpong. The guy is an absolute destroyer. He moves the needle in so many ways. He plays in this formation already, this system already at Bayer Leverkusen. He's arguably one of the best in his position. He'll be about the same price that Chelsea paid for Giovanni Quenda, maybe less. As you can see, he's 24. He's got a £33.5 million release clause, which is less than what Chelsea just paid for Giovanni Quenda. This does make him my priciest option. So again, budget. I don't need to spend a ton of money to bring this squad, not only to rebuild with quality players for the future, but to move the needle in so many ways. Again, it's okay to splurge every now and then. Just go pay a little bit more, get it done. It's not often you hear me say that, but in this case, we have the option to get one of the best in his position for peanuts. I think that this is just what you got to do. I don't see any other reason to avoid this. I'm shocked that we didn't go for this last season, personally, with the how quality he was. So, Danny, I know we've talked about that before. I feel like I've read that, but then I've also read like I just read the article day before yesterday and was putting this together that he still got a release clause. So again, I don't know which outlet to believe. So, but again, he's still going to be roughly the same price. And I think that just, to me, this is why it's a no-brainer for me. He's literally one of the best in the world in that position. Jay, welcome back. Says, Liverpool are keen on Frimpong, but I wouldn't mind the idea of Roger Fernandez. Yeah. And again, this isn't a right or wrong. This is how I would go about my summer business. if Liverpool, I've read too that and there's Liverpool fans I know who think that they're trying to get Trent tied down to a new contract as well. A few outlets claim that could happen. Maybe if Madrid are not quite sold on Trent yet, maybe the injury, I don't know. Maybe we could go ahead and offer Dalot to Madrid to keep them off Trent's heels and maybe kind of keep that kind of situation kind of muddy right now so we can make a swoop for Frimpong. This is how things are done sometimes, but we'll see what happens. Dalot has been linked with Madrid. A lot of clubs. I was shocked that nobody paid the release clause for Frimpong, but again, the release clause has to be paid all up front. So you pay a little more for that and you get it done. Like Danny says, yeah, get your targets in the chat once it's under 200 million. Yeah, we're doing a rebuild it can be 200 million if you want. I started with 200 million and it turned into like a budget because I needed nowhere near 200 million. So, but that's my right wing back. That is my most expensive signing of the summer window, and that is the big signing of the summer for me in terms of my rebuild. It's an instant first team player. No need to worry about him at all. He's going to be the difference maker in so many different facets of a given match, of a season. He's a specialist, and he could still rotate. Ahmad can still come in and rotate. Kamasan can come in and rotate. I think this is the better option for Kamasan's development personally, and I do probably think that Ahmad's going to be playing a little bit in one of those 10/ like wide roles, kind of like what Garnacho's doing. You're going to be getting wide at times. You're going to be playing centrally at times. Ahmad's playing more centrally in the last couple matches under Amorim, so that's what I'm going with for my right wing back spot. So you guys know how it is. I saved the most difficult one here for later on in the show. Midfield / that deep lying playmaker for the pivot. It's a big important position. We're going to be losing Christian Eriksen. We probably need to actively try to get Casemiro out the door. Those wages are killing us. He's, to his credit, he's done well in recent weeks, but again, the wages are killing us. We know that Sir Jim is not a fan either, but aside in that position, in this role, in this system that we play, it's not just a simple I'm a 6 or I'm an 8 or this or that. Aside from being able to progress the ball, aside from having the ability to drop deep, to build out from the back, take the ball off the defense if needed, start that attack, this position also needs to have a little bit of bite and a bit of that physicality and that energy and stamina, and not in a few years. Now, we need a little bit of that mentality, a little bit of that leadership. That doesn't always mean age. I put a poll out the other day with 3 players because literally every time I look at this position, I change my mind. And I'm not talking about like, once a day. It's literally 4 or 5 times a day. I went back and forth. If you'd seen how many edits I've done on this particular slide, it would boggle your mind. You'd probably have me checked out. Because it was a toss-up, right, between Ederson at Atalanta, who is, the age, the experience, Hayden Hackney at Middlesbrough, who you guys know I really like, and then Club Brugge's Arden Yashari. But I opted this time for Yashari because a couple reasons. Not only because of his low price. So in January, the price tag being thrown out there was £17 million, and that was reported by a lot of Belgian outlets. But it's not just the price, because I think we're probably going to have to pay almost twice that. But it's what I see when I watch Yashari play. He's so technical on the ball. He reads the game so well. His positioning is world-class in all phases of play, on and off the ball. It's superb. His ball progression ability, his passing range, short pass, dribbling, long-range balls, his press resistance when he's on the ball, getting pressed in his own third even. His chance creation. Yashari literally has it all. What this does is, again, for my purposes, we're moving Bruno back to a little bit more of an advanced role. Again, they can rotate as well. That's the beauty of this system, this rebuild. Players who are a little versatile. But what this does is it frees Bruno up from the responsibility of having to cover so much ground. What we've seen from Bruno when he plays higher, when he plays deeper, is you get, like, when he plays deeper, his duels are very, very good, but a lot of his crosses and his long balls suffer. When he plays more advanced, his chance creation is very good, but there's not much else he's able to do. So he can't keep doing it all. He's 30 now. He can't keep covering every single blade of grass and being the only one carrying a lot of the responsibility for ball progression from deep positions, from ball progression through the midfield, from chance creation, from long-range passing. Bruno can't be the only one we rely on for that. Eriksen has the passing range, but he doesn't have the legs. Casemiro has the passing range, doesn't have the legs. Yashari, passing range, ball progression, press resistance, legs, all of it. Amorim wants a center midfielder who covers ground, and Yashari does that perfectly. Club Brugge loved this kid so much. They already upped his contract just 6 months after buying him for £5 million. They're making him one of the highest paid players in the league. What this means, though, is you're probably going to, I know 17 million was reported in January, but we're probably going to have to go probably 25, 30 million pounds just to get this one over the line, because of the fact that they love him so much there. At that age, again, he's 22. The quality and the price, I think this is too good of a deal to pass up. I think this guy is an all, like, you guys, when I did that scouting report, I said, like, he is the complete midfielder. He is the complete midfielder. He is your João Neves. He is the Bruno. He is the prime Frankie de Jong. He is all of this in one. Like, this kid is going to be a absolute world beater one day, and I think that it's too good of an opportunity to not snatch him up now, personally. But you guys, let me know how you feel. I know the last time I looked at the votes, I think Yashari or Ederson are probably ahead. I don't remember off the top of my head. But you guys definitely helped me move this position. Now, I like Hayden Hackney. I think that there's still something that I'm not quite seeing that I want to see from Hackney. I think maybe, I don't know, because his numbers per 90 are actually better than Yashari's in a lot of different areas. But then again, that's where the eye test kind of clinched it for me for Yashari. Just what you're seeing from him on the pitch is one of those things where you almost don't notice him in that regard. Almost like watching Carrick or Busquets. Like, there are things he does in that area, that delicate area of his own half, that don't get noticed. You're not going to hear his name, but he just seems to always be involved in everything. But if you guys have not had a chance to watch Club Brugge play, go watch him play. He had a goal and assist before heading into the international break in a match in his league. So Jay's jumping in with some thoughts here. He wants a goalkeeper. He wants Chevalier. You guys know I do love Chevalier. Center back, he wants Bashali, Diomande, Housen, Branthwaite, maybe. Yeah, I saw us link to Branthwaite. Ignacio, I did mention Ignacio in my other video as well. Right wing back, wants Roger Fernandez. Vanderson, I remember Vanderson. I remember when he's at Monaco, right? DM, Florentino Luis. I remember Florentino. Is he at Benfica still? Angelo Stiller, there's a good one. Alex Buena. Yep, I do like Alex Buena a lot as well. Some good choices there, Jay. Yeah, good picks. And yeah, Bashali free. Yeah, Branthwaite's probably not as expensive as he would have been before. Chevalier is probably going to cost a bit. Costa is definitely going to cost a bit. So, but good picks, man. I like that. Lionhearts, big up, Lionhearts. Good to see you again, my friend. So that's my midfield. So let me do a recap for everyone who's following along here. So Jonathan David, free. Probably going to have to pay a little bit of a signing bonus. Sfer Nipan for the number 10 role / pivot against certain opposition or for rotation. 10 million with a little bit of extra add-ons, which I'm not going to care about. Arden Yashari, deep line midfield role, playing for that pivot. Probably going to cost you about 30 million. Jeremy Frimpong for the right wing back, because I've sold Dallo. You're probably going to have to pay between 35, 40 million for Frimpong. So he is my pricier option. And then Olivier Bashali, center back, free signing again. Probably going to have to pay a little bit of a signing bonus to beat out other interested parties. So far, that's like only 75 million for 5 quality players. That to me that's like 75, 80 million, right? We'll call it like 85, 90 million with Jonathan David and Bashali's signing bonuses. So you guys, this is why I said, like, we could have made this 100 million budget. I would have done just fine. But what's life without a little bit of whimsy, without a little bit of a splurge, right? So it does leave us with some cash to spare. And I'm not even yet including what we would get from selling players like Rashford. I haven't even done that. So we're already well within PSR at the end of the summer. I told you guys, I should be United's director of football. I would do such a better job. I would do a better job in 10 days than we've done in the last 10 years under the absolute clowns we've had in charge. Leonard says Hackney would cost more than 30 million. I imagine I would go with Arden. Yeah, Hackney's not quite there yet. I do think Arden looks better, and I do think Arden, just for his age, is going to be one of the best. Jay says DM Hackney, Nipan, Nemecha. I saw us linked with Nemecha. I almost put him on the vote as well, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Dortmund are going to want to sell him at all. Dibbling, Cunha, Xavi Simmons. You guys know I do like Xavi Simmons. He'd be expensive, though, too, but he does move the needle. Gyökeres for striker. Keep Hoyland as an understudy. Yeah, you guys know I like Gyökeres. Again, Jonathan David, though, I think has been doing it for a little longer. Again, there's nothing right or wrong. It doesn't mean I think one player is good or bad. It's just this is how I'd roll for this summer, because we do have to consider, at least in my opinion and the way I went about this, we do have to consider the PSR issues, the finances. And again, like I just said, it's about 80 million, 85 with the signing bonuses and whatnot for the players that I've signed, and I've got 5 in, well below the budget that we put out ahead of this. And with the player sales, getting the players off the book, we might actually make money with that signing. But again, what's life without a little splurge? What's life without a little just aggression in terms of these rebuilds? Should we get one more? I'm going to get one more. I'm going to do one more. Say goodbye, everybody, to Andre Onana. Say goodbye. Wave to him as he leaves. I'm not trying to be mean, but say goodbye to Andre Onana and say hello to my new keeper, and that is Johan Garcia. 23-year-old Espanyol. He'll be 24 in a couple months, so really, really, really good age right now. We've been linked to him recently. We covered that in the stream a little bit ago. And he's literally on pennies, like 4 or 5K a week right now in wages. He literally makes 125K less a year than Casemiro gets per week. Like, that's ridiculous. He's been man of the match 3 times this season. He's got the most goals prevented in La Liga. He has the most saves per 90 in La Liga. He commands his box, which you guys know I love more than anything. Top 10 for crosses stopped per 90. Again, that £21 million release clause. Honestly, just go ahead and pay a little bit more. Just not only do you beat out other competition by doing that, but you get to amortize that instead of paying it all up front. Get it locked up, spread that fee out for a couple of years, send Onana off someplace else. He can go back to Italy or something, let him go to France, Germany, Saudi League. I don't care where he goes, but I'm done with Onana. I know it sounds cruel, it sounds mean. Onana has been a net negative this season for me. Same with Diogo Dalot in a lot of ways. I can't with him. He's just too lacking in so many key areas of keeping that I can't do it. But this is my new keeper for my rebuild. He's going to be super cheap. He's one of the best keepers in La Liga. I mentioned this to Justin the other day because you guys know Justin's a big Madridista, and he was like, "Oh, I hate this guy. He causes so many problems in some matches." But he's one of the best in La Liga right now. Good age, and I think the last time we signed a Spanish keeper, he ended up doing quite well. So that is my new keeper. I had a little extra money. I have a lot of extra money, honestly, to work with, but I decided to go ahead and grab another keeper. So you guys let me know what you think about keepers. I know some of you mentioned Chevalier. You know I like Chevalier. Chevalier is probably going to cost more than twice as much as what you're going to pay for this guy, though, at the end of the day. Jay says, if we can't get Gyökeres due to whatever the case might be, then maybe Osimhen. We're also linked to Hugo Ekitike. Yeah, someone else mentioned Ekitike in the chat earlier as well. Kuna Matata says we need to sign Mbappe. Well, good luck with that, man. That Mbappe would literally cripple us as a club if we signed him financially, just for how much he makes per week, how much it would take. I don't even like Mbappe all that much. I think he's doing well, but I think he's just not as good as the hype has been. But hey, big up. Ashif, welcome. Just joined to start. Hey, no problem, man. Glad you're here. Better late than never, right? Jay says you might as well put that off in your career mode. Yeah, go for it. Go for it on the Mbappe. Lionheart says, talented Spanish goalkeeper. I'm in. Let's get him. Yeah, the last time we signed a young Spanish keeper, he ended up being here for quite a bit of time, if you guys remember. How long was De Gea here? Like 12 years? But I'm getting rid of Onana in my rebuild because I just can't anymore with Onana. So with the new keeper as kind of the cherry on top of my summer rebuild, kind of, you can say like your deadline day signing, whatever. That brings our summer business to 6 signings and our transfer fees to roughly just under like 115 million or so after you pay a little above a few release clauses, and then you get your like signing bonuses in. So we'll call it like 120 just to be safe, right? You guys know I like to do that. Not too bad, if I say so myself. 120-ish million for 6 players, several of whom are first team quality. Some of them are literal class in Frimpong or Jonathan David, and what Yohan Garcia is doing right now. You've got some good rotation options for that midfield as well, and you've got free agents in there too. Considering amortization, the money coming in from Sancho, Rashford, Anthony, Malacia, Bayindir, in my build, Onana and Dallo as well. Not to mention the clearing out of wages from guys like Lindelof, Evans, Eriksson, and then Casemiro in my build. We'd be spending a lot less than we'd be bringing in summer in terms of this rebuild for me. So PSR is going to be fine. I mean, between Sancho and Rashford alone, you're going to be getting like 70 million. So it's like we would be on the up and up in terms of satisfying PSR. And this sets us up for future summers by getting PSR wrangled, getting the wages down, getting a really good quality squad rebuild started. It's a bit ridiculous. So this is how so I'm gonna put this up side by side so you guys see. This is the squad we started with, and this is the squad we ended with my rebuild. So you can see it's a lot less bloated. Of course, there's going to be youngsters in and around the mix ready to go on loan to get first team minutes here, get someplace else, or so you get those. You got guys like Wheatley, Gore, Vitek, though. I honestly, Danny, look away. I do think Vitek's probably going to be sold in the summer. I don't think he wants to come in and rotate. I think he wants to go play first team football, and he's probably ready. So we would have to make a choice. So you could argue we could stick with Vitek. I think Vitek's kind of gone the Kovar route, unfortunately. Biancheri, Scanlon, Morehouse, Camison, Kukonki, Montato, all of the Fletchers, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these guys are going to be in the mix as well. I didn't include them on the list, but they're going to be in and around the mix. So you can see, I've got Garcia in there. We've got Dermot Me and Eli Harrison as our backups. Maguire, Yoro Delit, Aiden Heaven. Licha has an asterisk because we're going to see Mazraoui can fill in at center back, but then I've got Bashali in there on a free taking over for Licha. We've got our wingback / wide players. We've got Dorgu, Diego Leon, Ahmad can fill in there too. Mazraoui can fill in there too. And then we got Frimpong, and then you've got, again, Camison, Montato all in there as well. Central midfield, Ugarte still. Bruno can play there. Collier, Mainu, and then Arden Yashari, and then you've got the youngsters. Because, again, like I said, my rebuild, I sold Casemiro. Again, you got the 10s. You've got Garnacho, Xerxes, Ahmad, who I think is probably going to be playing there more frequently, Bruno, and then Sfer Nipan is the one I bought. So the ones I bought are in blue. And then striker, Hoyland and Cheeto are going to be sticking around. We're going to be rotating. And then we've got Jonathan David coming in. We can't just rely on Hoyland and Cheeto. Cheeto has literally just turned 17. Hoyland is still young. We need someone come in and take over. Someone who can carry that responsibility, the mid-20 guys. Let me see what we're saying here. Robert says, I like the David pick. Yeah, I like Jonathan David as well. And if he doesn't turn out, we can sell him. We'll make money. It is what it is. But I think I'm not ever worried about Jonathan David. Leonard says, how 130 mil? That's some great Brighton business. I told you guys, I don't need a lot of money. This almost could have been 100 million budget spend. I could have gotten a lot cheaper. I could have got Angel Gomez instead of an Arden Yashari or something, and that would have been another free agent. And then we'd be well below 100 mil. Jay says, is Harry Maguire Phil Jones 2.0? Maguire's this is what happens. Sometimes you get to a certain age, you play so much football. And then when you go from playing one type of system as a center back to playing another that requires more running, more sprinting, we see it at Spurs. Look at Van de Ven. Your body's not used to that. You might pick up new types of injuries because your body's just not used to being pushed in that way. And I think as Maguire's obviously 32 now, it is what it is. Can anyone confirm whether or not he actually did sign his year extension, or if that was just something that Amorim said that they want to do? But it sounds like he might be the only one of 3 of Lindelof, Maguire, and Evans who are going to be sticking around, which I don't have a problem with personally, but he's one that you're going to be looking at again. Robert says MLS, NSL. That's Onana. Yeah. He could. I'm done with Onana. I don't care if we lose money. I really don't. There are a few players, as far as we're looking at this rebuild, as you can see on my list, there are going to be a few players here that they have another year to convince me. Xerxes needs to show me consistency, and I need to see some more goal involvement from him. Hoyland needs to show me that he can take that next step in his development as a striker, can add some more strings to his bow, more work on your hold up, work on all that kind of stuff. Garnacho needs to show me that he can get to that next level as a footballer, which means he's got to improve that decision making. Licha needs to show me that he can stay fit. And then with all that in mind, you reassess in the fall, you start reassessing in January, you plan for next summer, and then the rebuild could continue and might even kind of get to its kind of like almost to the end phase by that point if you do it well. By then, Maguire could be gone as well. So, like Danny says in the chat, by then, if Maguire's gone, you kind of like next summer, maybe even January, you go get Juan Jimenez in January. His contract expires in December, Juan Jimenez. You can get him for free. You see what I'm talking about? It doesn't take a ton of money. It's about building, not buying. Spend smarter, not bigger. Juan Jimenez, Danny, will be available for free next January after his contract expires. And Danny would like Mbeumo. Mbeumo did start off on my list. I ended up taking him off, though. Jay says, but Maz can't play wingback, though. I think in this system, Maz's better position is as one of those center back roles, but being a natural right back, he can play those. He has played those a wingback role when we needed him to. So then he says, lose Frimpong for Wesley or Fernandez. Yeah, and again, I think Frimpong, what clinched that for me as opposed to someone younger is just like, I just wanted just someone who I don't have to worry about in that position. Someone who's already class. He's not expensive. He's still a good age. He moves the needle. Like you mentioned earlier, like you want to start challenging. I think Frimpong is one of the difference makers in terms of getting us from just an Arsenal where we're still in the phases of the rebuild to like, no, we're getting it to where Arsenal has been in the last couple of years with a player like Frimpong. I do think Frimpong, David, I do think these guys move the needle that far in that direction immediately for us. Then you've got players like Montato, players like Scanlon, like I said, Bianchiri, the Fletchers, Ibrahimov, etc. They're all knocking on the door as well to get in and around the matchday squad. So even if after another year or so, guys like Hoyland, Xerxes, Garnacho, even Collier or Menu, maybe if these younger guys don't reach that level, you've got options coming through. Some of these players are probably at an age where they can go out on loan, like Bianchiri and whatnot. This is the proper way to rebuild. This is how you plan. This is how you have a structure. This is how you set a culture. This is how you recruit. It's planning for the short term, planning for the long term. It's both and. It's offense, defense, long game, short game, all at the same time. With a proper structure, this is how you go about it. It's constant assessing, reassessing, planning, all of it, several windows out. It's like playing pool. It's not just about the next shot. You've got to plan the next couple shots after that. And then again, like I said, while all this is going on now, you're looking at the players in your squad who maybe aren't quite showing you enough. You know, which ones can be sold. You kind of like Fergie used to do. You sell these players almost when they're not quite at their peak, maybe when they're just starting to decline from that peak. You have to have a good eye for that, and then you go ahead and move those players on when there's a demand, when they're still a good age, and you know you can get a better price for them. That's just how it's done. This is how you do it. Jay says, I think Amorim needs to realize that Mazraoui can play midfield too. He might put him there. I mean, I don't know if we're going to go full Ten Hag and throw him as a 10, but Lionheart says, where is Shaw and Mount? You guys know that I don't even include those two in my squad anymore. They're in there, but I mean, they're like, I didn't have enough space on my slide to put like physio room on there. So if you can't see off to the side, there's physio room off the slide. That's where those two are right now. Mount, I just can't count them. Do we count them? I mean, your question, Lionhearts, is literally what we've all been asking for the last several seasons. Where is Shaw and Mount? I mean, that's just where we are, man. Danny says, I think we need a Cunha or an Mbeumo to get top four. And the reason I took Mbeumo off is because of Ahmad. Because I do think that's the position that Ahmad's probably gonna to play in, because that's where Amorim's really decided to start playing him before he picked up his injury. He can still get wide. He's good enough in those central positions. He's quick. He's got really good movement. The ball sticks to him, and he's versatile. He can play. And then Buemo is versatile as well. Cunha can play as a 9 as well. Again, there's no right or wrong. Cunha is going to cost a little bit more, and Buemo is going to cost a little bit more. And so I have to also keep the PSR in mind. Again, not everyone's going to do that. And that's fine. There's no right or wrong way to go about doing it. Lionheart says, I'm not sure about Cunha anymore. Is that really the kind of character we need at the moment? And that was the one. I mean, I like Cunha. The issue with the Ipswich match started to kind of make me question it. And then the issue, I forget what the other match was. We saw red again. I can't handle that. I don't want that kind of drama. Oh, nothing worse than cold coffee. Robert says, Dallo had interest from Madrid. I would love Trent stay at Liverpool and sell Dallo for 30 plus. Forgiveness of the final year payment on Casemiro. I mean, there's some room for finagling there. You could say, like, we'll give you a discount on Dallo if you guys are interested, because I do think Dallo is better in a system where you can just be a right back. If you guys cool on Trent, leave Liverpool sweating that situation and give us, that gives us maybe a free run opportunity to go talk to Frimpong. But that's just me. I know you guys were looking forward to the video. I look forward to it all the time. This is how I would start the rebuild. There's PSR. This considers PSR. This considers deadwood. This considers priority positions, and it considers, planning for the here and now, players who move the needle, but also players that are going to be here for long term that we can develop, like a Nipan, like a Yashari, and then you've still got all these youngsters too. Again, 9 subs makes it difficult. I had a thing on here with like a sample starting 11, but I just couldn't finagle it. I would have had to make like 3 or 4 starting 11s, which is not the worst idea to have. It's good to have that kind of depth and rotation, but as you can see, it doesn't take much. I didn't need 200 million. Now, some people will go a bigger route. They'll go get an Osimhen. They'll go get an Buemo. They'll go get someone like an Ignacio or a Diomande or an Ederson or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's just because this is just how I would go about doing it. This is literally how I just started. All these signings that I just made are literally how I just started a career mode on FC 25. And so we'll see how it goes in the game, but that's just how I would start the summer business. It leaves us a lot of financial wiggle room, a lot of breathing room, a little less pressure, not only with the money we're getting, but the wages we're clearing off the books, and then the little amount that we're selling. I mean, 2 of these players are free agents. A couple of them are, youngsters who are 10 million. So Danny says, we could have said the same about Cantona, but we signed him. What was Cantona doing before we signed him, though? He did a lot of stuff afterward, but I was very young back then, though. Lionheart says, that's a very good point. Yeah, it is a good point. You never know how a player is going to work out or how their personality. But again, if there is evidence that does kind of show you a player's attitude, you have a decision to make, and that's just, it is what it is. Again, everyone's going to make a different decision in that situation. So I think that there are some intangibles that make it a little iffy. So Robert T says, I trust Wilcox and Bavel. Yep, I do. Danny says, I put my list in the comments later. I'm still undecided, but Nipan, Yashari, Jimenez are definitely in there. Yep. Jimenez is one that I would definitely probably look at next January, simply because his contract's going to be out next December. We're already linked with him. You could talk to him now, Danny, and get that deal locked in and just loan him back to Rosario Central until next January, like we should have done with Nipan this past season. Those are the options you could do. That's the type of thinking and planning and proactive structure that I'd like to start seeing from us, like what Chelsea just did with Giovanni Quenda. Now, I'm not saying we should have got Quenda and done that. I'm saying that kind of mindset. We should have done that with Nipan, signed him in the summer. He could have joined in January, could have brought a lot of much needed depth and creativity to that midfield. Didn't do that. Doesn't mean he's off the table, but as you can see, I put him in my picks. We can do that with Juan Jimenez. Get him signed now. He'll join in January when his contract's up. And then he comes in, and then you can say, you reassess everyone you have. Maybe Leach still can't stay fit. Maybe someone else like Maguire is getting interest to leave in January. This is how you stay on top of things. We've been too reactive for too long in the transfer window. We wait until the transfer window starts to just look at things and start getting these lists put together. Hopefully that'll all change now with the team we have in place, but it's just freaking, we've got to do better. We just have to do better. Danny says he was a shithouse like Cunha. I mean, it is what it is. Some people will be fine with the Cunha thing. And that's just the difference. It's like the difference when we pick managers. There are different priorities that people place on the things. Leinart says Cantona was a menace in France. Was he? That's funny. And like Danny says, yeah, on Juan Jimenez, get him now, loan him back. Those are the kind of things that we need to do. Like Danny says, loan him the Nice. Like, if we're gonna stick with Nice, we got to at least utilize it to our advantage, right, Danny? Like, it's the same with Lusan Sport, maybe with some of our youngsters if they need to go out and get minutes. There's nothing wrong with that. Mad Hatter, welcome back. Good to see you again. You joined just at the tail end, man, unfortunately. We are now just wrapping it up. So those are my picks. Jonathan David on a free, Sfer Nipan, just over 10 million with those add-ons included. Arden Yashari, probably about 30, 35 million. Olivier Bishali, center back, on a free to replace Licha until he's fit and kind of give Heaven and Kukanki even time to build up and develop a little bit for the next few years. I sold Dallo, brought in Jeremy Frimpong because why not? Because we need a top class player and he wouldn't cost a lot. He's available for super cheap this summer and he's one of the best in his position. He moves the needle for us in so many ways. And then I splurged at the end because I had literally only spent about 85, 90 million and got a new keeper. I sold Andre Onana, picked up Joan Garcia. He's got a 21 million pound release clause. Problem. Nothing. There's no money, no problem, man. Like I said in the description, you don't need a lot of money. You just need a little bit of outside the box thinking, a little bit of proactivity, and a little bit of aggression. If you know what you want, go out and get it. Don't fuck around. Don't sit here and try to get into these little bidding wars because you've got to save face. If you want Jonathan David, say this is what we're offering. We want you. We believe in you. We think that you can carry. We think that you can carry the weight of this shirt with class and performance, and we believe in you. You go out and do it. Doesn't take much. Now, I'm not saying you go the whole Ollie route and you're like, this is United. Like, no, you're saying we believe in you. We believe that this shirt is heavy, but we believe that you can carry it. And not only that, we believe you can carry the responsibility of our goals. We believe you can carry the responsibility of helping guys like Hoyland and Cheeto learn. We believe in that. We see that in you. That's how you sell something to these players. It's not about you should just want to come here because it's we think that you can handle this and we want you in the squad. Danny says, would you do a scout report on Breno Bidden? I feel like I did that already. I'm pretty sure I did a Breno Bidden. I mentioned him on this channel before. I know I've mentioned him. But yeah, I can look at it. But I'm fairly certain that I've done a scout report on him already at one point. Let me see. Obviously, I'm not going to remember because it's been so long. But I'm pretty sure I did one on him already, Danny. But you let me know. Go back and watch some of the videos. João Neves, Gavi type of player, market value 10-15 million. Yeah, I'll have to look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure I did one on him already. I can look at my slides right now. But that's, guys, don't forget to hit the like button. I know I haven't mentioned that a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you do like seeing some of these fun videos, if you do want to like throw out some ideas and stuff, like check the memberships to learn how you can get more involved. I'm just making sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did a Breno Bidden. Then he says, we have Thwaites, so maybe we aren't looking at Bidden. Yeah, we have a lot of young midfielders. We have a lot of young wide players. We have a lot of attackers in the academy. I like to see some of those guys come through, but Danny says you might have. I'm like 100% certain that I've mentioned him on the channel and if not done a scouting report, but I can't remember when that was. But in any case, that is going to do it for my rebuild. I do thank you guys for getting involved with the voting ahead of time. It did help me make my decision to see how many people were backing Arden Yashari. I love seeing what you guys had in mind for your rebuild. Again, it started as a 200 million budget. I quickly realized that even with a quality rebuild, 6 positions you saw, I didn't need anywhere near that. And we're going to be making money with my rebuild anyway, with the amount of players we sold and the wages that we're clearing off. So my rebuild not only puts the squad well ahead of its schedule in terms of a rebuild under Amorim, but it does put us well ahead of PSR and getting things back into the black. So let me know your thoughts if you weren't able to catch the live. Leave your rebuild in the comments after the fact. I'd love to see what you guys think. I'd love to check that out, get you guys involved. Until then, keep a lookout. I think Dylan and I are going to stop back by Monday to do a video on our top 5 post-Fergie signings. Some of it's pretty obvious. Some of it might be surprising, but be sure to check that out. I think we're going to be doing that probably late afternoon, early evening on Monday. If you guys are watching the international football, enjoy. Hoyland scored, did a Ronaldo celebration. Everybody's got their all butthurt about it, but it is what it is. So you guys know I don't really care that much about international football. I wish I could watch some of the youth international football, but none of that is televised. So it is what it is. But until then, you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. I've got a few things going on today. But if there's obviously any big news or anything, we will be back to discuss that. And throw some thoughts and prayers out to Rich at United TV. I'm pretty sure he is sick right now. I haven't seen much from him recently. So hope you're doing well, Rich. Hope you recover. Hope you're feeling better. It's no fun being sick. Been there myself many times. I'm sure we all have. So big up, Rich, man. Feel better. Take it easy, guys. Enjoy your day. Thanks for getting involved. And I will talk to you on the next one. Later.